Hello everyone, and welcome to Buenos Aires, Argentina. This is my last day here, and I spent 3.5 days in this city. And if I had to describe it, I would say it's like the Paris of Latin America, because it's super huge and metropolitan, and the architecture is 100% European. Like, it definitely makes me think of Europe. Or kind of like a mix with also New York City minus the skyscrapers, where it's just really huge. It takes a long time to get around everywhere. They have their own subway system and the buses. Fun fact, so you're supposed to purchase like a bus card that you refill and use. But I've just been getting on the bus and every time acting confused, because that's actually truly how it happened the first time. It had, and they just let you go on the bus. So I haven't actually paid for any of the buses at all yet, but I figured for 3 days that's probably okay. So on the first day I went to a historic neighborhood called La Boca, and this is kind of, if you've ever seen photos of Buenos Aires, it's probably from La Boca. And this is like the really iconic, colorful houses with tango dancing on the streets. It's super touristy, but kind of one of those iconic must-see spots. So I went to that and caught a couple of tango performances, just literally watching people on the sidewalk, and wander around the shops for a bit. But it was a lot of like those cliche souvenir knickknacks that I absolutely hate, and it was really crowded. So like I said, not one of my favorite spots, but it was really pretty. Another thing that I did that I thought was really cool actually was I went to yesterday a neighborhood called Recoleta, and there was this like famous cemetery there. Now usually I'm kind of skeptical about cemeteries because they're like nice parks, but kind of once you've seen one, you've seen them all. But this one was actually very interesting. So it was just rows and rows and rows of these huge mausoleums. So very like ornate houses for like a family, like, you know, with coffins. And the architecture was just beautiful, and they're all like really tight together with these narrow aisles that you can walk in between. And so I was going down these aisles, and one of the most interesting things was, so you're going down an aisle, and then you'll turn the corner and there'll be like a mausoleum that's just like the door is open and the coffins are just like hanging out, like they're not, you know, in a stone casing or anything else. So it was kind of like maybe a little underkept, I would say, but yeah, the door would just be like broken open, or the glass would be out of the window and you can look in and there'd just be a coffin hanging out, which was really creepy. Like, I got just like weird vibes from walking around and being like, oh, here's a coffin, or there'd be like stairs going down into the mausoleum. You can just like see into like darkness. So yeah, a little creepy, but the mausoleums itself architecturally were really beautiful, and it was kind of a very serene place to wander around for a bit. Another thing that I thought was really interesting that I noticed was also the other day I went to the river walk, which in and of itself is kind of standard, but people will be walking around with cups of mate. So you will have like a small cup, and it's kind of like, it tastes like green tea, and you drink it actually out of a straw. So you fill it with this thermos of hot water, let the tea steep for a minute or two, and then you sip on it through this straw that has a filter in it. And it's just like an open cup that people will carry. But people had it everywhere. So you'd see people on park benches with their thermos and then their mate with their metal straw out of the cup just hanging out. and that's something definitely unique to Argentina here that I haven't seen anywhere else. Probably the most interesting thing that I did while in Buenos Aires was attend Carnival. So interestingly, Carnival here, the big finale was on Monday, whereas most places I assume it's Tuesday because it's to celebrate start of Ash Wednesday, like Lent, which is obviously on Wednesday. But here, it was on Monday. And it was basically a whole afternoon and evening of festivities where they had these parades on the hour every hour. The parades are called murgas. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right. I could be butchering that, but I think that's how it's pronounced. So I got to watch a number of those parades come through every hour, which was really fun. The other thing that was very unique was there were these stalls selling Espuma, which is literally canned foam. I think soap, per se, actually. And so initially in the beginning of the day, it was just like little kids would have these, like, it's like an aerosol can that shoots out foam. And they'd be spraying each other. I got like a little bit on my leg at one point, but like that was about it, and it was kind of the kids just playing with each other. And then I went and took a break and came back for the evening performances and parades, and at that point it was like everybody had these cans of foam, and the teenagers were actually the worst because they just like had no mercy on anybody. So you'd be walking and then someone would just like close range spray you with this foam like in your face or on your hair or just like anywhere. So I like got in my ears and my eyes, and I went with, so in the evening I went back with this guy from the Netherlands who I met in the hostel, Tom, and we bought cans of this foam, and then if someone would shoot us, we would shoot back at them and start all these little wars, and it ended up being that just at the end of the night I was 100% totally soaked in this soap foam stuff. I mean, it was like in my hair and in my face, and my shirt was entirely drenched, so I couldn't even like wipe it off. And then I went back to the hostel and washed my shirt, and it was like so much soap coming out of it that I'm actually pretty sure there's still a large quantity of it in my shirt, so I'm not going to wear that shirt for the rest of my trip. It was so much fun because you're just like running around like spraying everybody with this foam and getting sprayed back, which just kind of like added to this like super festive atmosphere, like really playfulness of it that I absolutely loved, along with like the music and the festivities. And at the end of the night, they closed out with this band that I can't remember the name of, but judging from the audience's reaction and knowing all of the songs, I'd say they're probably a pretty popular band. And people were just like salsa dancing in the middle of the street and then also getting sprayed with foam and singing. And it was this really like very joyous event that I'm like really happy that I got to be part of. Yeah, so overall, I would say I really enjoyed Buenos Aires. It's definitely different from the other cities that I've visited so far, which is really great. I think probably 3.5 days here is not enough time, given that it's such a huge city. And I think a lot of my days have been like just wandering around different neighborhoods and eating a lot of food. But I would have loved if I had had more time to do more actual like cultural experiences. But that's kind of the double-edged sword of traveling to a lot of places with such a limited amount of time. So overall, good experience, and I'm off to Mendoza next. So, ciao!